All right, welcome to Season 4, Episode 20, also known as Episode 131 of the Retro Game Club podcast. My name is Hugh, and joining me is someone giving out full refunds, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, who would have seen that coming? But I've canceled my service, and anyone who has paid me for my service gets a full 100% refund.
Yes, including that you get to keep hardware, too. Is that what I heard?
Yes. So I'll let you explain what's going on here.
Well, this week I read what I consider to be the most shocking news I've ever read in my entire life, and that is Google was discontinuing, is it called the Stadia or the Stadia? It doesn't matter.
It's just Stadia. There's no yeah.
Okay, the Stadia. Okay, so it's like you're not supposed to say the Ukraine, it's Ukraine, right?
Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Okay, so I think everybody saw that coming. Google, that's what Google does, right? They create something cool, they spend billions on it, and then they're like, yeah, never mind, we're kind of bored with this idea. This no longer pleases me.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with the Stadia, and that was a cloud gaming service. So you didn't actually download the games, or if you did, you only downloaded enough to run them locally for some period of time.
No, there's no downloading.
There's no downloading.
It's just streaming,
okay.
Yep.
Okay, streaming only. And they sold some hardware and some controllers. And the part that was actually surprising about the announcement, I guess, is that Google said when they were killing the system, they were going to give everybody refunds for everything they purchased, including the hardware.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Like, so as a lot of our listeners know, I got into Stadia early, and Stadia, however you pronounce it. And it's not because I thought it would stay around. It's just that I like new shiny things. I like trying stuff out. I always think I'm going to start like a Hugh Johnson type blog where I talk about stuff I do, but then I never do that. But so I just end up with stuff sitting in a box that doesn't get written about. Anyway, I paid for 2 games on it. So I got 3 months of Pro Pass free, which gets you like 1080p streaming and then 4K streaming. There was one game that only came out on Stadia, which I forget the name of it, but it wasn't bad. It was kind of like you're like this little girl running through a nightmare. It's like a sneaky game. You're sneaking around.
Okay.
And then I got Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And I liked them both. They played great. The controller was great. One cool thing about Ubisoft is they announced last night that anyone who paid for any of their games on Stadia will be able to migrate it to PC. Their saves, their game, so they don't have to pay any money or anything. So I thought that was pretty cool because they really kind of helped Google sell this service. And it's kind of unfortunate too. Hugh, like I told you, yeah, it worked great. It really did. It really did work well. And the controller felt good, but it wasn't for me. I have these systems I've paid money for that I own games on, and even though it worked great, I stopped playing it after a few months.
Yeah, and I don't know if this stuff is I've heard the controllers use some sort of proprietary communication protocol, and you can't really use them unless you plug them in via USB port to any other game systems.
I don't know. Well, so it uses Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz, but you have to do weird things to connect. So I don't know if it's the software proprietary that's weird or whatever, but I mean, they just like, I use LG TVs in the house just because I like their screens the best. And as of a few months ago, the Stadia app was on those TVs. So in theory, if you were like really into this ecosystem, you would never have to buy another game system. It would just go all through your TV. Yeah. That's kind of cool. I'm sure Xbox will do that soon, you know.
They might. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends how much. It depends whether or not they make money selling the hardware.
Yeah, true.
The box, without not counting the TV, but you bought the Stadia hardware, and that, I mean, the specs on that are like well beyond Raspberry Pi.
No, it's just the hardware is just the controller, or it's just Google TV, one of those little TV dongles. That's it.
Well, then what was that? I would see. This is what happens when you do all your research on Wikipedia. I said something to do hardware. upon launch, the cloud. Oh, I was talking about the cloud hardware. That's my problem.
Oh,
So it's just the
yeah.
controller and the dongle. So talk about the cloud hardware, which is obviously more powerful than a Raspberry Pi. I see what you mean. So basically, the controller, if you can make it work with other devices, I guess free controller.
Yeah, and it's nice. I hope it'll work on other devices. It does feel good. It feels sturdy and well made.
Yeah, those little like it's like a Chromecast kind of thing. And to your point, all that stuff gets built into TVs now. Like I have a couple of like these Amazon streaming sticks that are just in a drawer because every TV I bought in the past 5 years has like Amazon just built into the TV. Like if you buy a TV from Amazon, they basically embed Amazon into the TV when you buy it.
Exactly. And if you buy a cheaper TV, now most of them have the Roku OS, which is actually very nice. Which I would have invested. I wish I would have invested in that company. Because they are worth a lot now. Speaking of TVs, how long, like a modern TV, like a TV you just bought recently, how long do you think that should last?
Well, if it's an LG, I would give you 2 years tops. I've never had an LG appliance that lasted more than 1 or 2 years before it failed in some catastrophic way.
No, their TVs are top notch. TVs are what they should just do.
If you want to do some like really interesting appliance talk, I can share you the long history of LG appliances I've been disappointed in. I had a LG refrigerator that caught on fire. No, it's true. That did not burn the house down, just itself. And then I bought an LG dryer that just decided it wasn't going to work after like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like 2 months of them sending different maintenance guys over before they're like, we're just going to replace the motherboard and see if that does anything.
Did it?
Well, it did. And then it worked for like 2 years and then it stopped drying again. So then I looked up, like I watched some videos on YouTube and found there's like an internal reset switch that if you hit it, it'll start drying for like 2 days and then stop again. And then you have to reset it again.
So you just make the switch external at that point?
No, it is way in there. It is way inside that device. So after doing that for a couple months, I insisted that we buy a new dryer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so a regular TV, any TV,
okay,
how long do you think that should last? Like apps being supported and stuff like that.
Oh, apps being supported 4 months tops. I for sure have a TV that like came with like the Blockbuster app after that was like not a thing. I don't think it had been a thing for a year and it was still on the TV. Remember when Blockbuster like tried to do their own version of Netflix?
Oh yeah. After they denied Netflix to buy Netflix. Yeah.
I mean, I literally have TVs. My family room TV has at least 3 apps on it that were dead when the TV arrived.
Like Redbox and all that stuff.
Yeah, like just gone. So I think if you get 3 years, you're doing great.
See, that's strange because so modern TVs call it the past 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
They are about as powerful as a Raspberry Pi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've looked into LG and Samsung coding. I've looked at their SDKs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic stuff because most of the apps you're building, you're just streaming video. That's all you're doing. And so when I forget what service came out, Peacock or Paramount or one of those.
Yeah.
I wanted to try it on my old TV, which as of last year, I've replaced it last year, but as of last year, it was a 3.5-year-old TV. And so I, emailed the support of the company like, hey, is this coming out for this model TV? It was literally the top of the line TV 3 years ago. And they were like, the remark they sent back was so snarky that I almost just wanted to say like, no matter what, I will never use your app. But it's just like, there's no reason for people not to support older TVs because you're streaming video. There's no more hardware you need. I don't know. I'm just complaining to complain at this point, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I ended up doing on my main TV was actually hooking up a Roku to it because Roku's always supported.
Mm-hmm.
They're only now like discontinuing support for the Roku I bought 10 years ago.
The reason I didn't do that is I didn't like that, like, you had to have a separate controller for other things like volume and stuff like that. They have updated the Roku controllers to be better, so that might be a better option.
You can control from your phone too. You don't even need their controller.
I don't want to do that. But so what have you been up to?
Yeah. So that was our not retro game talk. Well, other than feeling like garbage for no obvious reason. What I've been playing this new RPG that's 10 years old. Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero. This just came out this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rare case where the Switch version is more advanced than the PS4 version.
How?
It is because it is a Falcom game, and Falcom did not develop the Switch port. So Falcom originally developed, well, this is originally a PSP game. And then they did a modernization, like a update a few years ago on PS4 and PC. And the modding community modded the PC version and added a bunch of like quality of life improvement things to the game. Just, sort of like different types of, I don't know what all the graphic terms are, but like just graphical enhancements, and then sort of like just fixing some like play issues that were a little wonky, I guess.
Yeah.
There's actually a pretty long list, but they did it all on the PC port. So then when they got ported to America, right, when someone finally licensed it to release in America, they did not touch the PS4 version. They just took the thing Falcom developed and put the English script on it. But for Switch, they ported the PC version with all the mods to Switch.
Cool.
And because it's a 10-year-old game, it's not like you need advanced hardware to run it. I mean, it looks like a PlayStation era game.
Cool, yeah.
So if you're interested in the series, this is a rare case where, the Switch version is the way to go.
And you've started it on Switch? You're into it?
Yeah, I started on Switch. I'm in the first chapter of the game. I don't know. It's probably 40, 50 hours, I assume. That is about all I've been up to. How about you?
I had another late night, another old man late night. I went to go see Pavement, another 90s band. They were incredible, but man, that last show. So I went to see Dinosaur Jr. before them, and I was like struggling that whole show. But this show, it was one of those cases where like we kind of had to talk ourselves into going. Like, come on, we got these tickets. We can't be wusses and just not go, even though we're tired. And so we went and actually rallied, and it was kind of a nightmare getting there because what's her name? Mary J. Blige was playing around the corner, and who was it? Ricky Valley, Frankie Valley, someone Valley was playing around the other corner.
Okay.
So you had the most diverse groups of people, just like every kind of person you can think of, just fighting for parking spots. And there was no parking in Detroit. So it was kind of crazy getting down there. And amazing show. And I survived staying up past 9. Imagine that. And and I've been into hacking the Steam Deck, and I really want to play Twilight Princess. It is a game that I have not played, and I started playing it on the Wii emulator, Dolphin.
Okay.
And then I realized that there is a Wii U version, which is much better. So the Wii version was working great.
Were you playing the Wii version or the GameCube version?
GameCube version.
Okay.
Yeah. I could tell the controls were a bit wonky just because it was old, not because of emulator type stuff. And so I switched to the Wii U version, and all these YouTube videos and forums are saying like, yep, Wii U works great on Steam Deck. So, and by the way, I do own this game. I own the Wii version. I just have never played it. It looks a lot better. It plays a lot better, but one of the buttons will just not work. And so I'm trying to fight through that. But it's surprising how much better just the quality of life improvements they put in the Wii U port. Have you played that one?
Yeah, I played all of them. I mean, I didn't finish the Wii version, but I played the GameCube version first. The Wii version, it was the GameCube version was built first, and then the Nintendo announced new hardware, so they kind of It feels kind of like they quickly ported it over to Wii because the motion controls don't really make any sense.
Okay.
Like, it's not like Skyward Sword motion controls, right? It's just like you kind of flail around, and Link will, like, swing the sword the way he would have if you hit the A button, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I really didn't care for the motion controls in it. I just didn't think they brought a lot to the game, but it kind of makes sense because they just tacked it on at the last minute. And then the Wii U version is based on the GameCube version.
Okay.
So it plays like the GameCube version and is really, I think, the best version. It looks amazing. Like, I like the art of Twilight Princess better than Breath of the Wild.
A lot of people think that there's going to be a lot of tie-in in Tears of the Kingdom to Twilight Princess based on the art in the logo.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So if they did like Breath of the Wild with Twilight Princess graphics, I realize they probably couldn't. Like the game engine, you probably need, to be blunt, you'd probably have to run it on like a PS5 if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But like I'm perfectly happy with the artwork of Breath of the Wild, of course. But Twilight Princess is really my sort of visually favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, I really want to fix this. So we have a trip coming up, and after that, I'm gonna get back into this game and trying to fix that. But the other point I wanted to make about this was the way they emulated the Wii U. You have to choose that you're playing it on the Wii U gamepad thing that has the screen.
Yeah.
And that's what it emulates. And I think that's kind of genius that they do it that way, just because.
Oh, that might be why I never played Twilight Princess on the Wii U through the pad app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always through like a Pro Controller or something.
Yeah, Pro Controller, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a smart way to emulate that. But yeah, I'll keep everyone updated on that. Pretty exciting. But that's about it. We have a pretty good show here, I think.
Yeah. So we got all the Stadia talk out of the way. We can take that right
put
off
that to
the
rest.
show notes. What are we going to talk about? Turbo EverDrive PRO.
So yeah, this goes into the HuCard slot of the PC Engine or TurboGrafx, and it will act as an arcade card, finally. It will play Super CD games, which is awesome. But this is not as good as the Terra Onion one, unfortunately, because of the limitations of that slot. It will only play your games in mono. So, like, if you're playing like Eastbook 1 and 2, I do think you'd be missing a lot there.
Yeah, the music for sure. So even the CD audio you're saying is mono. It's not like...
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So that's kind of a deal breaker for me, but it's still cool that this is yet another option to do stuff like that. What else do we have? Oh, the Analogue Pocket has more cores that work great. I have a buddy that's been testing them. So this article we're linking to on Gizmodo is talking about the SNES core, but I mean, there's Game Gear, there's Genesis, there's really everything up to Neo Geo, because this is not as, I think the FPGA has about 40% of the gates as the Mister. So you're not ever going to get a PlayStation or anything like that in this, but you'll get up to Neo Geo, and that's still a bit buggy, but they're working on it. Very cool. Were you able to check out this next one at all?
No, I just looked at it for the first time right now.
Okay. Well, this is on Ars Technica. SNES Star Fox now runs at a silky 60 FPS thanks to a new hack. So it's hard to be quick about this one, but in short, they really rewrote the back end of this game. I guess it takes about 3 cycles in the normal Star Fox to render just a frame, so it runs really slow.
So that's 20 frames per second. It would be
pretty much, yeah. Okay. So now this is up to 60, but it was kind of timed to run that way. so all the progress, so it ran at the right speed. So when they rewrote part of this, it really sped the game up. So they had to do a lot of tricks to make this actually work. So really interesting read if you are, I guess, an assembler coder, I guess.
Yeah. I added this one. So I don't talk about like every new homebrew game that comes out, but if they're free, I pretty much will try to. There's a new Master System game called Black Sea Treasure Hunter, and it's out on itch, and it's a name your own price game. So of course you can give them money if you would like to, and I would of course encourage you to. But if you just want to download it, if you just want to be a freeloader, you can do that also. Looks kind of neat. I don't know, the font, it uses like a very Intellivision inspired font in the game. Even some of the graphics have sort of an Intellivision feel to them. It's clearly more advanced than an Intellivision game. But I think it looks pretty neat. I like the artwork on this.
I wonder what CPU does Master System and the Intellivision use? Not that I know that.
Not the same one.
Not the same? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Master System Z80, Intellivision, I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's not Z80.
Okay.
I'm afraid if I Google Intellivision hardware, I'm going to get something about that new device.
Oh, jeez. That will never be released.
That will never be released. I'm glad you've come to terms with that. We're intentionally not talking about about that system. Yeah, the Intellivision uses the CP1600, because I knew it was a 16-bit CPU technically. And it was created by General Instrument.
Wow. So nothing like the Z80.
No. I doubt the languages are even that close.
But that game does look pretty good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So it is Black Sea. We call it Black Sea Treasure Hunters. I forgot if it was one hunter or multiple hunters. I had to look at that.
And then, speaking of assembly code, someone created a operating system for the NES, and this is just a YouTube video, not on how he did it, but more of the what he did. And he does explain that it's, technically not a real operating system. It's about as close as you could get, though, on the NES. So pretty cool. There's a built-in word processor. It has Windows. I don't know if it has like a real command prompt, but yeah, pretty neat if you're into that kind of thing.
Yes, if you wanted to try and do general computing on the NES.
Yep. Get your banking done or something like that.
Yeah. Sounds secure. Wolfenstein 3D ported to Sega Master System, or at least a pretty good demo of the port.
Yeah, there's still some jankiness to it, like the doors are just a flat color. So they're working out some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean the Genesis port that I think the same group did is really, really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I believe you could do a minimal, what's called minimum viable Wolfenstein on Master System.
This next one, I don't know if I or you put this one here.
I did not put that there.
There's a new Virtual Boy game called Virtual Warzone, which looks like a pretty cool battle zone, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like Battlezone.
And it looks pretty impressive. I don't have a Virtual Boy to test this on, so I will not be getting this one.
I do, but I don't have a flash card. So did they make a EverDrive for Virtual Boy?
It's horrible. I knew someone that had one, and he gave it to me to try to put some ROMs on it. But what he didn't understand, which I had to explain to him, was you can only put one ROM on it at a time. So anytime you wanted to switch games, you had to plug it into USB in your computer. And yeah, just kind of a hassle.
Okay, that sounds bad.
Yes. What else? I think this next one was Zach's. The History of Mega Man 2 World Runs. And this is YouTube. This is Summoning Salt, who has a lot of great speedrunning videos on YouTube, and I would recommend any of his videos, but this is a nice educational one about Mega Man 2 speedrunning. Well, at least the history of it. And we talked about Stadia, so we have one thing that didn't get canceled. Something that lasted 23 years longer than Stadia, and that is Ultima Online has turned 25 years old, and if you've been playing it for 25 years, you get a special shield, among other things.
I mean, your character isn't already like level 1 million or whatever the cap is after 25 years? And you... Or is the shield purely decorative?
I think it's purely decorative. I think it's purely decorative, and you might get a few other, like, I don't know. Let's see, what else does it have here? A 30% chance to flame strike a mob on a successful parry.
Yeah, I'm sure that means something too. I think I get what that means.
But yeah, and they had other events like a troll kissing booth and drink vouchers. I don't know what you would do with either of those things online, nor am I brave enough to Google it.
I'm not Googling those things at all.
But have you ever played Ultima Online?
No, I've never played anything online.
Have you ever played any Ultima?
Long time ago. I played like Ultima 3 and I think 4, but it was so long ago that I can't imagine Ultima Online is that similar to them.
Yeah, I need to check those. I've never finished an Ultima game. I really would like to.
Yeah, I tried Ultima 2 a while ago because I read the story, like an outline of the story, and I thought it sounded like a really cool story.
Mm-hmm.
That is I mean, if I played it when it was new, I would probably say this game is awesome. But trying Ultima 2 right now is, it's hard. I mean, it's a kind of game like you need the physical manual and maps and stuff. Like, like that's the copy protection on that game. Like you have to have all the stuff to really understand what's going on.
Yeah. Which it's available online. So I guess if you have a big screen, you could have like DOSBox open in one window and the manuals in the other window. And this will be stuff I would do if I was retired.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's news. We do have a topic this episode. So a lot of you know that I will be spending some of this winter in Sydney, Australia, and I was trying to do a kind of a whole show that would be kind of retro, collecting, gaming, all that stuff in Australia. And no one would write me back. I had just a few people write me back, and one of the nicest people, Brennan from Retro Game On, has already done an interview with us, and yeah, here you go. All right, I'd like to welcome Brennan from Retro Game On. He is a YouTuber that does retro reviews, fixes, mods, features of not so well-known things in the retro collecting community. Glad to have you on here.
Hi, Rob. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
What did I miss about your YouTube channel? I really enjoy watching it.
Yeah, you pretty much got it in a nutshell there. I've cover a broad range of subjects in the retro gaming scene. Started with reviews, then went on to modding and repairing, and then there's more looking at games that were never released or arcade games that may have never made it to console, and also just mini documentaries and just oddities in the retro gaming world. I just find it fascinating to delve into all that sort of stuff.
And why is that? Did you grow up with retro games? And how did you get collecting? Was it from growing up or like a nostalgia thing where you got back into it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix of both. Actually, funnily enough, the very first console I ever owned was a Famiclone console when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I didn't own anything else at the time. That was all I got to play. So funnily enough, even though I'm not really in the right generation, I grew up playing a lot of Duck Hunt and Contra before I finally got a PlayStation 1, and then it sort of just went gangbusters from there, basically.
Mm-hmm. What back then, what was not even just collecting, just the whole, because it wasn't retro back then, it was just kind of video games. W- Most of our listeners are in North America, Europe, UK, some in Asia, but not many in Australia, only a handful. So I think, kind of the whole point of this interview is to kind of shed light on, what it was like back in the day and what it's like now. So, growing up, what was, were there mom and pop shops? Did you have to go to, a big box store? What was buying video games like?
Growing up, my local gaming store was called Ultimate Games, and that was an independently run game store. And I started the PlayStation 1 a little bit late. I didn't get it until about 2001.
Mhm.
So by then, a lot of the best games on the system were all secondhand, and Ultimate Games was the place to go. They were all, $15, $20 each. There are bigger game stores. You don't really find those sort of independent new stores anymore. But you find a lot of actual retro gaming stores now, but they've only really popped up in sort of the last 10 years or so. But
That's
yeah,
interesting because I searched around for some and I couldn't. Maybe they just don't have a big web presence.
yeah, a lot of them are sort of in markets. So my local game store is called Beyond Retro, and that's in the Morley Coventry markets, which is like a big sort of complex full of smaller shops and restaurants and food stores, that sort of thing. And most of them seem to exist in those sort of spaces.
Interesting. Okay, and then back in the day too, Nintendo didn't have the foothold that it did in North America, right? It was mostly Sega there.
Yeah, well, I sort of missed that originally. I've only really been into Sega since I started collecting about 10 odd years ago.
Hmm.
So, like I said, I sort of went straight into the PlayStation. Nintendo did seem pretty big when I was young. I didn't really know what a Mega Drive was or a Genesis was until I was older, but
Hmm.
I knew what an N64 was or a Super Nintendo. So I think Nintendo was relatively big over here. I've just never really been that big into Nintendo personally, so that might just be just the way I look at it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And so I uh collecting now, are the stores you're talking about, do they have a large quantity of games? Because I know in the States, there are two ways stores seem to fill up: estate sales, which they would have to get to at like 5 in the morning and wait in line to get all the good stuff, um, buying out other retro stores that go out of business, or going to Japan and buying out those stores. How do you
Right.
think, how do you think it works in Australia?
I fear it's mostly people coming into the store and selling their games.
Mm.
One time I was in Beyond Retro. There was a woman in there selling her N64 games, and the guy gave her a price, and she put on a bit of a sub story about how emotionally attached she was to them. And then the guy was like, $50 or whatever. Like, that's what I'm offering.
Yeah.
They probably get a lot of them from op shops, which are like Goodwill, that sort of thing. That's where I've got majority of my collection from, and it was a lot easier years gone past, but it's really hard to find games now. Another way to find games would be like garage sales and swap meets. I don't know if we really have estate sales over here. I've never really seen that. I've heard of them in the States though.
Hmm. Hmm. And there's a site that you have there for, I don't know if eBay's is big there, but you use Gumtree, right?
Yeah, Gumtree is more of a local, like a sort of a classified ads service.
Like
eBay is
Craigslist, kind of.
Yeah, like Craigslist. Yeah, so we don't have Craigslist. So I guess Gumtree is our version of that. But eBay is massive over here. I buy a lot of stuff on eBay personally.
So Craigslist with less human trafficking, pretty much.
I hope so. I don't think there's any human trafficking on there. But I don't know anyway.
So, going through a bunch of your videos, you could really see your collection in the background. And I was wondering, I didn't know some of those systems even came out. Like, I never picture an Atari 2600 or an Intellivision outside of the States. And I was just
Yeah.
wondering, have you gotten by with like just a PAL TV, or do you have any NTSC stuff?
Yeah, I try to I try to be on NTSC as much as I can. Like realistically, it's the better way to go. I know there is the nostalgic factor of 50 hertz and PAL and all that. But I've a lot of stuff I have is PAL. It's probably split. I have a lot of stuff from Japan as well, because obviously Australia is pretty as you know, we're not really near anything, but Japan is pretty close as far as things are concerned. So yeah, my CRT is a dual PAL NTSC TV, but I also use a flat screen TV for other stuff and sort of use that with an OSSC. And of course, that supports both PAL and NTSC, like most modern TVs do these days.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at my CRTs to see if they have a PAL option. For some reason, I don't. Listeners, feel free to write in, but I feel like that's not a thing in the States. Like,
no, I was actually lucky that
not existence. Yeah.
No, oh yeah. I mean, if you have NTSC as standard, I don't see why you would want to use PAL. Honestly, like some may see that as sacrilege, but yeah, that's funnily enough, the TV I grew up with, it supported NTSC. It actually it was a Philips TV, but it actually advertised right there on the TV. So that was good when I sort of started collecting, because that's the TV I got to use because it's just my parents' old TV, which they weren't using anymore. So
yeah, and you could just import stuff from Japan if you wanted to, and it would just work.
Yeah,
yeah,
I got lucky sort of early on in my collecting. Sorry, I cut you off. There's a bit of latency.
No problem.
Yeah, but I got a big haul of Japanese stuff early on, and like a Super Famicom and a couple of Famicons, so it was good, and that was all just compatible straight out the box with that particular TV.
Are there any for people, well, for Australians who want to get into collecting, or for people that will be traveling there? Do you have any advice on how to find the good deals, or what they expect to find? Like, is it mostly PlayStation heavy? Is it mostly GameCube heavy? You know, or is it just...
Yeah, if you go into op shops, it used to be so much better. It's really, you know, you really need to put in the hard yards and actually go into the shops and really go looking for it, because majority of what you're going to find is a lot of sort of PlayStation 2 primarily, but a lot of it's just garbage, you know, like FIFA, SingStar, The Sims, you know.
Yeah.
But you do get lucky. I mean, it's mostly PlayStation 2, Xbox, and you'll find some sort of newer PS3, Xbox 360 stuff as well. Never used to find a lot of PS1, which has built up a bulk of my collection, but not anymore, unfortunately.
Oh man, yeah, that is unfortunate. Do you get a lot of Japanese stuff? I mean, I know it's not that close, but like you said, and in relation to the rest of the world, I guess it's kind of close.
Yeah, I've not as much as I used to, but I figured out pretty early on that the Japanese sell their stuff for quite a bit cheaper than the Australians do, and the Japanese look after their stuff a lot better.
Yes,
you can buy stuff there boxed in mint condition for, you know, half the price of what it would cost over here. But like, you know, like the whole thing, it's all changing. You know, it's getting more and more expensive as time goes on.
And are there any holy grails you've been looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, I've been after a Sega Saturn for a while. It's just sort of one of the major consoles I don't own at this point, so I guess I could just go buy one on eBay. But you know, it'd be nice to find one of those in the wild.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're gonna buy one on eBay, you might as well just get a Mister until you find a real one. You know, it's so close to being able to do it perfectly. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of which, you know, what drew you into collecting instead of, I know, you know, the Mister community is pretty new, but instead of just not owning the stuff, you know, and just emulating, you know, what draws you to that?
I've always just been a collector, I guess. I've always collected stuff, whether it's good stuff or bad stuff. A lot of it's junk, really. But I like collecting stuff and I like gaming. So I guess it was just a matter of time before those two interests, you know, collided, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it culminated in a cool YouTube channel that, yeah, I would like, you know, if our listeners haven't checked it out, just go to YouTube and type in Retro Game On, and you'll land right on the site, and it's all organized very well in the playlist, so you can kind of see what, if you want to see Brennan fix stuff or do game reviews or whatnot. You seem to post really regularly.
Yeah, trying to post one a week at the moment. That's my goal. It's really like, I enjoy posting, of course, but it's also an algorithm thing, just dealing with YouTube. If I don't release for a while, they really sort of grounds me in the results. So it's sort of necessary, but keeps me on my toes, I guess, keeps me going somewhat.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to you'd like to plug, or you have any questions about collecting for the show or anything?
No, I don't have anything to plug. I mean, basically the channel's it. That's pretty much what I got going on at the moment. Open for more questions. Yeah. This is my first time on a podcast, so this is a very new thing for me. So I'm very happy to be here.
That's great. Yeah, we love to have you here, and yeah, thank you so much for the insight on collecting in Australia. I'm sure it's something that a lot of our listeners know nothing about. I really, a lot of people don't even know about collecting outside of their own community, let alone 5,000-10,000 miles away.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah. So like collecting for you, do you mostly go to estate sales, or because you mentioned that before?
Yeah, there's estate sales, there's garage sales too. There are, I mean, I'm in Detroit where we kind of get Chicago's runoff because Chicago had actual video game companies. Detroit had Cars and Rust, and so we get some of that runoff, but there have been a lot of game stores opening up, but it's really just a lot of driving around and looking online, and that's really it. There is a site in the States called Nextdoor that's becoming more popular for people to sell on, but it's a really annoying site. A lot of conspiracy theorists and people just screaming at each other on there. So I tend to stay away from that now.
Yeah.
But I do think Facebook Marketplace has really picked up as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've had a couple of wins on that over the last 12 months because I don't know, I guess people just don't check it as much, maybe for retro gaming stuff in particular. And I think if people put stuff on there, they just want to get rid of it quickly. So yeah, I bought a Wonder Swan on Facebook last year, I think, and that definitely wasn't released in Australia. So yeah, it's kind of good. It was in my same suburb as me as well, so it's just around the corner.
Well, I do think retro collecting has become kind of a hip thing in the States. I have 2 kids in school, so I end up at functions where I have to interact with people I don't know, and I'm not a sports guy, so there's another dude standing there, you're trying to talk about stuff, and I more and more they just bought a Nintendo or something like that. So I do think the market's becoming a little bit saturated with buyers and not enough games and stuff like that. I don't know if that's happening down there or if it's still pretty niche.
Yeah, no, it's definitely picked up quite a bit, because when I started this, about a decade ago, there was no competition at all. I could buy whatever I want at rock bottom prices, and yeah, it's good that it's more popular. I'm not against that. It's good that more people can enjoy it, but of course it's shot the prices straight up and made it harder to find things, but it's just the way it is, I guess.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. So again, that YouTube channel is Retro Game On. All our listeners, please go check it out and give them a subscribe and a like. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've enjoyed this.
And thank you, Brendan, for that. And I've definitely learned, that there is such thing as a PAL/NTSC TV. I had no idea those existed. So now I need to hunt for one of those for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a European, maybe I'll get a Z80 or something. I don't know. But thank you again. That was a fun interview. And everyone should check out his YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type Retro Game On. A bunch of fun stuff on there. That if you're listening to this podcast, it's not just Australian centric. It's just retro gaming centric. So check it out. Weekly new episodes. Game Club.
Yeah. So I fell into the rabbit hole here of looking at the one company that makes Virtual Boy stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I think your friend must have had an older version, because they have like 3 different flashcards.
This was in like 2014.
Yeah.
So pretty
they have
old.
Newer ones, but they're like $225.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they're so expensive. You clearly are a they for 85 you can get the video splitter cable. So this is what you use if you want to play on the actual hardware but have it output to something else.
Oh, like if you're streaming it?
Yeah, I mean, like you see this at like Midwest Gaming Classic when they have the Virtual Boy set up. They don't have you sticking your head in the Virtual Boy. They have the Virtual Boy hooked up and then a thing streaming out to a monitor.
That's cool.
You don't want to give yourself like eye or brain damage from playing the real thing.
Or some skin disease from whoever used it right before you.
Yeah, I mean, we just got over like a pandemic, I hear, like. All right, Game Club.
Yeah, wanna do yours first?
Sure. As soon as I can remember which tab I have the notes in. There we go. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. So, I didn't realize that the 3 versions of this game are actually different games. So I tried each of them a little bit and watched a little bit of speed runs for all of them. I'm not sure which one I liked best. Like the NES game is pretty impressive for an NES game. I don't know if I would say it's the best one-on-one fighter on the NES, but there's not a lot of competition for that title, so it probably is. It's really not bad. I mean, the characters all play kind of samey, if that makes sense. The Genesis version is also, I think, pretty good for the Genesis. When I watched a speedrun of that, I saw you can pretty much win every fight by just spamming one move over and over again.
Okay.
So it looks pretty easy. Like the computer AI doesn't seem to be very good. And looks good, plays good. The story, it's got some kind of weird. I guess I don't know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles outside of the cartoon that was in the US. So I'm guessing this is based on a comic book or something in Japan. I don't know. But it was like weird space alien stuff, it looked like to me, which I don't remember being in the cartoon.
Yeah, there was some alien stuff in there.
Yeah, this was like everything I remember took place in, some fictionalized New York City setting. So I didn't get deep into TMNT. So, and then the Super Nintendo version it just looks like Street Fighter 2. It's just a blatant rip-off of Street Fighter 2. How it looks, how it plays, like the settings, all of it, it's just Street Fighter 2, but with TMNT characters. I don't know which one I liked best. I mean, the Super Nintendo one is probably overall the best. But they're all pretty decent for their system. What did you think?
Well, I'm pretty sure I played the arcade version because I played it on the Mister. It was not great. It looked fine, I guess. But for when this game was released, I think it should have looked better. It did not play great. The character design was cool. Yeah, the mechanics, I guess they were okay. But it definitely played worse than an SNK, early SNK fighter game.
Yeah.
But, I do see a note here that there's not an arcade version.
There's not an arcade version, yeah. I'm guessing you played the Super Nintendo version because it looks the most arcadey.
Okay, it did not play good. Oh, you know what? I didn't play it on the Mister. I played it on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collection that just came out. So, yeah.
So it had to be one of the home versions because it has all 3 home versions.
Yeah. So whichever one, when you're scrolling, whichever one pops up first, that's the one I played.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you mistook it for an arcade game, I think it had to be Super Nintendo because like the Genesis one again looks good, but I don't think you could mistake it for an arcade game. And the Super Nintendo one, I think you could mistake for an arcade game.
Oh yeah.
Was there a bunch of weird space alien stuff? Oh,
totally. Yeah. I played again against an alien type thing. I got crushed.
No, but like, were you like on a UFO?
That never happened.
Okay.
That never happened.
I don't know if you're actually on a UFO, but I swear, like, I think some of the Genesis levels are like, I gotta open up a long play again to check. I think some of these are like, you're like in outer space. You're in like these like alien, versus predator kind of environments.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything, the Super Nintendo version, from what I can tell, again, I didn't play these games all the way through. They all that all takes place on Earth, in Street Fighter 2 knockoff settings. In the Genesis one, you're like, yeah, I don't, you're like in other dimensions or something. Like, I have no idea what this is based on story-wise. I'm sure someone who's a big fan of the comic is furious at me right now. But I didn't read the comics. I didn't see anything beyond, the after-school cartoon.
Yeah, and I was even like, I felt a little bit too old for it at the time too. Like, I had friends my age collecting the toys and stuff, and I was just like, I don't want any of this. Can we just play some Contra or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and say it's not a very good game. That's my review. I don't need to play it again.
Now, if you knew it was a console game when you played it, instead of thinking it was an arcade game, would that have changed your opinion?
No, it was not fun. I did get crushed in it every time, just annihilated. Even if I was a little better at it, I don't think I would have liked it. And I don't like, I like SNK fighter games, but I don't like the early ones. And that's really what this felt like to me.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, Samurai Showdown is kind of a rough game to play. It doesn't, it looks really good, but doesn't play all that well.
But Samurai Showdown 2 is awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Street Fighter 1 didn't play that well either, so.
True, yeah. Want to move on to mine?
Yeah, let's go.
So yeah, speaking of Street Fighter 1, I played a game that came out the same year, or Street Fighter 2, I guess. It came out the same year as Street Fighter 2, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, which, if you're in Europe, because of copyright issues, I guess it's Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. And yeah, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you know this game. It's an action beat-em-up game, could be 4-player, and you are trying to save April. She's in a fire in the beginning of the game, and then Shredder jumps in and takes her, and then you're fighting all the way past all his goons and the Foot Clan. And I, again, played this on the Switch. I played it with my son. We went through it. There's like a quarter button. You just keep injecting quarters, and that's what we did. And we had a great time playing it. Yeah, it's a fun experience for the first many minutes, maybe the first 2 or 3 times you play it. But then there's not much reason to play it again. So if you're into kind of starting an arcade cabinet collection, don't get this game. Don't get the Simpsons game, because unless you're constantly going to have new people over to play your games, no one's going to want to play this or the Simpsons game after the first time. It's just, you could just beat it. When you have unlimited quarters, it's not fun. As far as a console port, it's a little bit too hard for a console game, in my opinion, which makes it not as fun as it could be. Luckily I was able to put quarter after quarter into it. I do think that the music in this game is just incredible. I know it's a Konami game, but a lot of the music sounds Capcom-esque, which is a big compliment. Like, I like Konami music. I love Capcom music. They're both great, but that did surprise me. The sprites, the artwork, what they pull off in this game with the limited CPU and stuff is just incredible. Turtles in Time is a sequel to this game. It's a lot of people's favorite SNES game, but it is just an incredible arcade game. And we played that as well, and it is better in every way. The animation, the 4 turtles are a bit more balanced with each other. The artwork's better. The frames they use for each sprite's motion is way higher, in a good way, not in the laggy way, just like an animation way. You know what I mean? It looks like a cartoon. They have different voices and stuff like that. It's just a very impressive game. So if you have if you could only play one of those 2 games, definitely play Turtles in Time. Turtles 2, the arcade game, TMNT 2, the arcade game. That's the NES port of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. It's a bit confusing. That was part of this game club discussion as well. And for a NES game, I just think it's incredible. The sprites are big. It looks... It takes, I would say a minimum to drive from your house to an arcade or vice versa. So you're never really going to see the two next to each other. At least back in the day, you wouldn't. And so when you got this game on Christmas or your birthday or whatever, and you popped it into play, I mean, you may know it doesn't look exactly like the arcade, but they got it really close, at least for that hardware. And the controls feel good. I don't know much about what they left out or what they added, but it feels like a full game, and it is still pretty difficult. But I do recommend playing all of these games. Yeah, they're not perfect, but I think they're great, and I'd say go with Turtles in Time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said what I was going to say, which is like playing these by yourself is kind of sad.
Yeah.
So I didn't really play these a lot because I don't have a cabinet. I don't really have anyone in my house who would be interested in playing them, and I didn't feel like going to a barcade or something to play with strangers who might happen to have nothing going on one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So I played this game a bunch when it was new, because again, it was a fun game to play with a group of friends.
And it just looks nice. Yeah.
It looks really, really nice. Yeah, the graphic style on the arcade is great. But yeah, at home, it's just not the same experience. If you had like a bar in your house and you had people over often, yeah, I could see you owning this cabinet. But just as a cabinet that you're gonna play by yourself, yeah, I don't think so.
Or even with just you and your wife, you're just going to get bored of it. You play through it once and you're like, I never need to do that again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you have different people over who don't play it like all the time. Then it's a lot of fun.
Totally, yeah. And if you do see this in an arcade, definitely play it, because the whole point in an arcade is to have a fun experience.
Yeah.
Whether, in this, a quarter or two will give you a really fun few minutes. So, I would definitely recommend it. Definitely over TMNT Tournament Fighters.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree this is a more fun game than Tournament Fighters.
And I did look up the guy that did composed the music for this, and he did do Gradius and Gyar Kung Fu, I love that game, and okay. Salamander, Life Force, Gradius 3, Contra 3, Tournament Fighters. So he has a lot of credits here. What are you going to play next?
Well, I think our next episode will be the 30th anniversary of the Sega CD. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pick Sewer Shark because it was a launch game. Although good luck playing it online on archive.org or anything.
I'm going to go with Sonic CD. And next episode, we are probably not going to have news. I think we're really going to focus on the Sega CD. We're hoping a lot of you will write in with your Sega CD memories or favorite games. So we will have the email segment. Just the topic will be Sega CD, the launch and our experiences, and this game club discussion. So no news next time, and that is on purpose. I didn't want you guys to think.
Unless it's Sega CD news.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so if you want to write us in to participate in the Sega CD news, or you played Sewer Shark or Sonic CD, if you played any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, if you have the world record in Mega Man 2, or have the new 25th anniversary Shield and Ultima Online, or if you wrote your own NES operating system, please email us. Email at retrogameclub.net. That is email at retrogameclub.net. Or, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All our socials are in our show notes that Zach takes care of. Thank you so much, Zach. And, we do have some emails this episode.
Yeah, let's see here. Kevin writes in to talk about the Odyssey. He thought it was interesting that the Magnavox Odyssey was headquartered in Indianapolis in 1972. And you can find a scan from IndianapolisMonthly.com of like an article. What was it? It's a history about the founding of the machine and the founder.
Cool.
So it's not an article from 1972, but it's a very detailed article about the history.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, this is a good one. Now it does have that annoying pop up like that you have to close when you get to the site, but it does appear to be a completely free article to read. With local newspapers, it's kind of hit or miss nowadays.
Have you ever had a site ask you if you want them to send you alerts and you've said yes? Has anyone ever said, yeah, that's something I want?
I don't think anyone who understands how that functionality works would ever click that.
Yeah. Never.
I could see someone thinking, oh yeah, I want to get weather alerts or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
No, you should never ever click that.
No, it's bad.
Yeah, never. Also, so back to Kevin's email regarding asteroids. He wanted to recommend 2 different versions: the Atari 800 version, which one of our guests mentioned during a past episode.
Mm-hmm.
And he says it's great, and he grew up playing the Atari 2600 version of the game, which I think we talked about. The other version that he recommends is the Pico 8 clone called Sphere Buster 2. And he said it's simple enough that his toddler can actually play it.
Wow, cool.
You only need 2 buttons and it restarts immediately. I guess if you die.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like games that don't require any skill. That's not a joke. I'm serious. That sounds, like a game where you can just kind of mess around for a few minutes and not have any frustration. Sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Majors writes in asking about the garage sale I went to with all the import games. He wanted to know if there was anything good. And no, it was, I don't, I didn't buy any of the games because they were mostly RPGs, like really text-heavy RPGs. I don't know if the person selling them or their son, I guess, was trying to learn Japanese or bought them for the soundtrack. Like the one 3DO game they had there was an RPG that wasn't released in America.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, it would be kind of neat to have, but what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
I think everybody that's into gaming says they're going to learn Japanese one day. I am not one of those people. I can't learn foreign languages very easily. So, Odyssey not selling with AC adapter, and he said that was also very common in Japan that they would often bundle Japanese consoles without the power adapter just to cut down price, but at the same time, a lot of them use the same adapter anyways. And I think like the Genesis Sega CD32X, I think all use the same adapter. I think you can just swap those around.
No, one of them is a little bit different. One of them has like a -5, one has a +5. There's one difference with one of those, and it's really annoying.
Okay. Well, I know the 32X one, it's a different shape. So maybe it's a 32X one. Recommendations like asteroids. He recommends a twin stick shooter called Echoes Plus. And it's on Steam. It's like a poor man's Geometry Wars.
Cool. I'll check that out.
They sent a little feedback on the Game Club games. TMNT Tournament Fighters, he could not beat the first match against the computer. But notes there is a community that still runs tournaments for this game.
I believe it.
He thinks TMNT is fun, but a little bit unfair because it's clearly designed to steal all your quarters.
Yep.
And then I guess on social media, we asked about places for retro collecting. And he mentions Lost Ark Video Games in Greensboro, North Carolina. And Yahoo Auctions Japan.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while. I got to pop back on that site and see what's going on.
Yeah, I think there's, when I was getting rid of a few games, I was eBaying some old PC games, like probably during quarantine. And then I realized it wasn't worth the time. But like one guy that bought a bunch of games, the address was like, it was a weird address. So I looked it up, and it's a service that if you live in Poland, but you want to buy stuff in the US, you like ship it to the service, and then they put it all in one big box and ship it to Poland at once.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I think is how I thought that's how Yahoo Auctions Japan worked a little bit too. That you could sort of bundle stuff up and get it shipped, one time. But I think that was, so I'm guessing this was a guy, obviously in Poland, who wanted Western PC games, which I assume are pretty rare there, at least legal, legit copies, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you can get bootleg copies of any game anywhere. That's what I think that was going on there. So I thought it was pretty interesting. But thank you for that email. And I guess on social media, we got a couple other recommendations for retro game stores. Something called Replayed in Allston, Massachusetts. That looks like I looked at that place. It's just a little bit outside Boston. And someone recommends finding family and friends who are getting rid of old stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. You like if you had an uncle or cousin or something that you knew had a Sega Genesis and they aren't really into gaming anymore. That's one. Yeah.
Coworkers, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, please email us, email@retrogameclub.net, and hit all our social sites. But the two of us are mostly on email. I'm in Discord a bit, not as much as I would like to be. I kind of go in spurts there. But yeah, our next games are Sonic CD and Sewer Shark, and write in with your Sega CD memories and stories and opinions.
Yeah.
And I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, so thanks for listening.